gifted girl's brightest moment becomes her darkest hour when her teacher makes an accusation that leaves the whole school in shock. What will happen when the people meant to protect her begin to doubt her? Let us know in the comments section below. Brittany Moore didn't talk much in class, but when she did, her voice was soft and certain, like someone who already knew the answer and didn't need to prove it. Her hands moved quickly across the paper, pencil whispering secrets only she and the numbers understood. Today, her test was done before anyone else had finished reading the second question. She flipped the page anyway, checking each solution with the calm precision of someone who had done this 100 times before. Maybe she had. From the front of the room, Mrs. Constance Relling adjusted her glasses and stared. Brittany didn't notice, or maybe she did and just didn't care. It wasn't the first time someone had looked at her like that. Like a child trying to play grown-up. Like a student playing smart. When the bell rang, the room filled with the loud scrape of chairs and the chatter of students happy to escape into lunch. Brittany stayed seated, placing her pencil down neatly beside her paper. Mrs. Relling didn't call her by name. She just said, "You, stay behind." The others filed out without a second glance. Brittany looked up, blinked slowly and waited. Mrs. Relling stepped closer, her heels clicking like little judgments. "You finished that test. Quite fast." "I practiced the same format last week," Brittany replied. Her tone was respectful, but she didn't smile. The teacher narrowed her eyes. "So, you're telling me you already knew what was going to be on it?" "No, ma'am, just the type of questions I studied." Mrs. Relling folded her arms. Brittany had heard that sound before. It was the sound adults made when they didn't believe you, but didn't want to admit it yet. The silence stretched. "Your score last month was average. Now suddenly it's perfect." The way she said perfect made it sound dirty, suspicious. "I've been practicing every night," Brittany said quietly. "My dad helps me." Mrs. Relling's face didn't change. "We'll be talking to the academic board," she said. "There will be a review. We take cheating very seriously." Brittany didn't flinch. Not once. She just stared back like she was solving a hard problem in her mind. Like she knew how this equation would end. The door to room 214 clicked shut behind Brittany as she left, her footsteps slow, steady, heading toward the lunchroom like nothing had happened. Inside, Mrs. Relling walked back to her desk and picked up the test. Perfect. Every answer. She frowned. There was no joy in her expression, only a kind of bitter satisfaction. Not that the girl had done well, but that now she had reason to bring her down a peg because something about Brittany had always rubbed her the wrong way. The way she sat quietly. The way she always looked like she was holding something back. The way she never seemed to need anything from her. A child like that was dangerous. And Constance Relling had spent her whole life keeping control of her classroom. She wouldn't lose it now. By the end of the day, rumors had already started. "Did you hear? Mrs. Relling thinks Brittany cheated." "No way. Brittany, she's like the smartest in the class." "Nah, she's just quiet. That don't mean smart." "Maybe she stole the answer sheet." "She's not even on honor roll." "She will be. Maybe that's why she did it, to get there." Brittany kept her head down. At her locker she found a folded note tucked through the vent. "You ain't special, just a cheater." She crumpled it silently, shoved it in her pocket and kept moving, but her fingers clenched tighter around the straps of her backpack. At home that night, her dad, Calvin Moore, was cooking spaghetti and playing old soul music on low. The TV was off. The kitchen smelled like garlic, and something burned faintly. He always forgot to stir the sauce. "How was school, baby girl?" She shrugged. "Okay." "Okay like boring, okay? Or okay like you don't want to talk about it?" She hesitated. "Mrs. Relling thinks I cheated on the test." The spatula froze in his hand. What?" she said. "My score was too high." She said, "I'm being investigated." Calvin turned the burner off. placed the spatula down slowly, and sat beside her. His voice didn't rise, but it had that low, sharp edge that meant he was angry and trying not to show it. "You've been working on math every night for weeks. With me. You ain't cheat." "I know." "Then we'll fix it." Brittany looked at him. "What if they don't believe me?" He took her hand, rough and warm and steady. "Then we make them see what's true." The next morning, Brittany walked into school with the same calm face. But something in her had shifted. She was used to being ignored, not hated, not targeted. Her classmates whispered as she passed. Mrs. Relling stood at the front of the room, holding a stack of printed notices. "Today," she said, "you'll all be taking a retest under supervision." She didn't look at Brittany when she said it, but the whole class did. And Brittany sat down, quietly unfolding her pencil pouch, sliding out a fresh number 2 pencil. Her face didn't move, but inside her chest, her heart beat like a drum, counting down. She had nothing to hide, but everything to prove. The room felt different today. Not colder, exactly, just tight, like every desk was an inch too close, every breath too loud. Brittany sat perfectly still as Mrs. Relling paced the aisle, her heels ticking against the tile like a metronome counting down. "Eyes on your own paper," she said, before the test had even been passed out. "No talking, no turning around. Any suspicious behavior will be reported." Brittany didn't blink. Her hands stayed folded on her desk, fingers laced, knuckles calm. A boy across the aisle shot her a look, not mean exactly, more like confused, like he still wasn't sure if she was a genius or a scam. Brittany didn't look back. Mrs. Relling walked to the front and held up the test booklets like they were sacred documents. She began handing them out, row by row, watching every face as she moved. When she got to Brittany's desk, she hesitated just long enough to make it feel like a warning. Then she dropped the test down with a thud. Brittany picked up her pencil and waited. "You may begin," Mrs. Relling announced. Pencils scratched. Chairs creaked. Somewhere near the window, someone coughed. Brittany flipped to the first page. Quadratic functions, slope-intercept equations. Word problems dressed up to look friendly, but packed with traps. She smiled to herself, just barely. It wasn't hard, not really. She started to solve. And one question, then another. Her pencil moved fast but steady. She checked her work, then moved on. Minutes passed. The room got quieter. The pressure built. Mrs. Relling stood at the back now, watching Brittany like a hawk. She hadn't moved for 5 full minutes. Not even blinked. Just watched. Like she was waiting for the girl to slip. But Brittany didn't slip. Her answers weren't guesses. They were choices. Deliberate, practiced, precise. Halfway through, she could feel the room shifting again. The silence wasn't just tense now. It was curious. A few kids stole glances, like they were starting to ask themselves a different question. Not, did she cheat, but what if she really is that good? Mrs. Relling must have felt it too, because she marched up the aisle again, stopping right at Brittany's desk. "Hands flat," she said. Brittany placed her hands flat. "Lift your arms. Let me see under the sleeves." She complied. "Turn over your paper." Brittany did, calmly, revealing only blank space on the back of the page. No cheat sheet, no notes, just clean, white paper. Mrs. Relling stared at her like she was still trying to spot a crack, but there was none. Without a word, she turned and walked away. Brittany went back to solving, and she didn't stop until the last answer was written, double-checked, and circled. When the bell rang, the class exhaled all at once like they'd been holding their breath the whole time. Mrs. Relling stood at the door with a box. "Tests here," she said. "No exceptions." Brittany walked forward. She placed her tests on top of the pile. Her name was written in neat capital letters, top right corner. Like always. She didn't look up, but she felt Mrs. Relling's eyes follow her all the way out the door. That afternoon, Brittany didn't go to lunch. She sat under the big oak tree near the parking lot, unzipping her backpack and pulling out a little green notebook. Her math journal. She flipped to a blank page, then paused. Her fingers hovered over the paper. She didn't write. Not yet. The numbers used to feel like magic, like a secret world that only she understood. But now they felt watched, like someone might twist them into proof of something she never claimed to be. She closed the notebook. Later that day, her dad picked her up. She didn't speak when she got in, just buckled in and stared out the window. "You hungry?" he asked gently. She shrugged. "We could go to Reggie's, get those chili fries you like." "I'm not really hungry." He nodded. Drove in silence for a few blocks. Then finally he said, "Mrs. Green called me today." Brittany turned her head. "She's the new science teacher, right?" Her dad said. "Says she's been watching how you handle yourself. Said she's impressed." Brittany didn't say anything. "She told me what happened in class. Said you stayed cool. Smart. Said it loud enough so the principal could hear." Brittany looked out the window again. "She believes you, Britt, just like I do." Well, maybe she's the kind of person who doesn't need proof to give a kid a chance. That night, Brittany sat on her bedroom floor, math journal open again, staring at the page. She picked up her pencil. She wrote a single line across the top. "They'll never believe you until they can't ignore you." Then she began to work out a new kind of problem. Not just equations, but strategy. If they were going to challenge her brilliance, she'd make it undeniable. She wouldn't just pass. She'd rise. In the teacher's lounge, Mrs. Relling sat stiffly, stirring a cup of decaf she hadn't touched. Principal Vargas stood nearby, holding the results from the retest. "She aced it," he said plainly. "Impossible," Mrs. Relling replied. I sat right over her shoulder. "No notes, no cheating, nothing suspicious." Brittany Moore scored 100% again, same as before, different test. She must have memorized something. Maybe she hacked into the school network. "She didn't," Vargas interrupted. "It already checked. And let's be honest, Constance, this isn't the first time you've flagged a student for being too smart." Mrs. Relling's jaw tightened. She doesn't talk back, doesn't smile, doesn't ask questions. That's not grounds for suspicion. She doesn't need help. And maybe that's the real problem. "Huh," Vargas said quietly. She looked up, eyes hard. "Excuse me? Maybe it bothers you that she's better than you expected." He let the words hang there, then turned to leave. "She's not done proving herself," he added. "And neither are we." The door clicked behind him, and Mrs. Relling sat frozen, holding a spoon over a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. The email came on a Thursday morning, buried beneath cafeteria menus and PTA announcements. Brittany saw it before homeroom, standing by her locker with her phone tucked low in her hand. The subject line read, "Student Academic Review Results, Brittany Moore." She didn't open it. She didn't need to. She already knew what it would say. But still, she stood there, staring at the screen, waiting to feel something like relief. It didn't come. Not really. Just a strange kind of silence behind her ribs, like the whole world had gone quiet for a second. When she walked into class, everything felt the same, but different. Kids laughed, whispered, slid into their seats, but their eyes flicked toward her now. Not long, not obvious. Just little sideways glances that lasted half a heartbeat. Brittany sat down without saying a word. Mrs. Relling stood at the front, papers in hand, face stiff. She didn't mention the retest, didn't mention the review, didn't apologize. She just launched into the lesson like nothing had happened. and Brittany let her. But halfway through the period, a knock came at the door. It was Miss Green. The young science teacher smiled, holding a clipboard close to her chest. "Excuse the interruption," she said. "I need Brittany for a few minutes. District request." Mrs. Relling didn't argue, just nodded. Brittany stood slowly, the whole class watching, and followed Ms. Green into the hallway. They walked in silence until they turned the corner, and Ms. Green glanced down at her. "You didn't open the email, did you?" Brittany shook her head. Mrs. Green stopped and crouched a little so she was eye level. "They cleared you, 100%. They said your work showed conceptual mastery beyond grade level." "That's a quote?" Brittany blinked. "They said you're the kind of student who should be accelerated," Miss Green added. "They want to put you on the district math team, representing the school." Still, Brittany said nothing. Psst. Green stood up again, giving her space. "You don't have to say anything, just know, okay? You didn't just prove yourself, you made them see you." They kept walking. At the end of the hallway, a tall woman in a gray blazer stood waiting. Her name tag read, "Dr. Myra Ngu, Academic Affairs." "Brittany Moore," she said warmly, extending a hand. "We've been hearing quite a bit about you." Brittany shook her head, quiet but steady. Dr. Ngu led them into a small conference room. A few other adults were seated inside, district officials, a school board member, even Principal Vargas. The room wasn't hostile, just serious. "Brittany," Dr. Nung said, taking a seat, "we appreciate you being here. We know this hasn't been easy." Brittany nodded once. "We reviewed your assessments, your homework, your test, the retest, even your math journal. What we found was remarkable. You have a gift, and we want to nurture it." Someone else spoke up, a man with a striped tie. "We're recommending you for an advanced placement program at the city STEM magnet. You'd get mentorship, college prep resources, the whole 9 yards." Brittany looked at them. All these people saying good things, finally. But all she could think was, where were you 3 weeks ago? "Will I still go to school here?" she asked. "For now, yes," Dr. Nq said. "The magnet program meets off-campus twice a week. You'll stay enrolled here, but your learning won't be limited by it." Brittany nodded again. The adults exchanged smiles. It was clear they thought this was the happy ending. Meeting over. Except Ms. Green didn't move. She looked at Principal Vargas. "And what about the classroom?" He raised a brow, meaning the place she's been learning in every day, with the teacher who accused her in the first place. A pause. "Mrs. Relling's behavior has been noted," Dr. Ungus said carefully. "We've initiated an internal review." "Which ends in what?" Ms. Green asked. "A warning? A training module? This child was humiliated. Is someone going to stand in front of her class and say she was right all along?"
Brittany sat perfectly still. No one answered. Outside the room, the hallway was quiet. Brittany and Miss Green walked back slowly. "I'm sorry," Miss Green said. "They want to pretend it's fixed, but it's not. Not really."
Brittany looked up at her. "Can I say something?" "Of course. Can I talk at the school board meeting next week?" Mrs. Green blinked. "You want to speak?" Brittany nodded. Brittany hesitated, then said, "Because I'm not the only kid who's been told they're wrong for being smart, or quiet, or black. I just want to say it out loud." Miss Green nodded slowly. "I'll help you write it." That night, Brittany sat at the kitchen table with her dad. A plate of fried chicken sat untouched beside her math journal. "I'm proud of you," Calvin said, "but I'm even prouder you didn't stay quiet." Brittany flipped to the last page of her journal and began to write. This time, it wasn't numbers. It was a speech. The boardroom was packed the following Tuesday. Teachers, parents, students, reporters with cameras and tiny notebooks. Mrs. Relling sat near the back, lips pressed thin. When Brittany stepped up to the mic, a murmur passed through the crowd. She adjusted the microphone, then read from her paper. I was accused of cheating because I finished early, because I got every question right, because someone couldn't believe a black girl like me could be that smart without help. The room went still. I didn't cheat. I studied, I practiced, I taught myself things no one else would explain. I didn't ask for a shortcut. I asked for a chance. She looked up, eyes scanning the room. We say school is about learning, but sometimes it feels like it's about proving who doesn't belong. And I think that needs to change. A beat of silence. Then someone clapped. Then someone else. Then the whole room. And in the back, Mrs. Relling stood up quietly, walked out, and didn't look back. 2 weeks passed. Not quietly, not smoothly, but with the kind of energy that meant things were shifting. Brittany became the name on everyone's lips. Teachers whispered it in the staff lounge. Parents brought it up in car lines. Students talked about her with a kind of cautious awe. Not because she had made headlines, not because she'd won anything, but because she'd stood in front of the people in charge and said exactly what no one else had dared to. And now, things were starting to move. Mrs. Green stopped her in the hallway after science class, holding a slip of paper with a grin stretched wide across her face. "You got it," she said. Brittany took the slip. Her hands were still, but her heart jumped as she read. An invitation to the Regional Math Symposium. An official speaker badge. "You're not just going to compete," Ms. Green said. "They want you to speak. About your experience, about representation in STEM. They want your story." Brittany looked up. "Me?" The symposium was held in a glass-paneled university building an hour outside the city. When Brittany arrived, dressed in a navy blue blazer with her hair pulled back in neat braids, her name was already printed on a white placard at the entrance. Brittany Moore, student speaker, Eastview Middle School. She stepped through the doors with her father beside her. He didn't say much. He didn't have to. His eyes did all the talking. And when she stepped on stage later that day, a quiet auditorium filled with teachers, students, district officials, and even local news crews, he sat in the front row with both hands folded in his lap, not blinking once. Brittany spoke clearly. "I used to think being good at something would be enough," she said. "I thought if I just kept my head down and did the work, the world would notice." She let the silence linger. "But then I learned that sometimes the better you are, the less people want to believe it. Especially if you don't look like their version of gifted. Especially if you're black. Especially if you're a girl. Especially if you don't smile and nod and try to make them comfortable." She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She just told the truth. "I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I showed up. I worked hard. I solved problems no one taught me, and when they tried to take that from me, I didn't get loud. I got better." The applause came slowly at first. Then it rose, and when it filled the room, Brittany stood still at the mic, blinking once, twice, then smiling. A small, quiet smile that said, "I told you I could do this." Afterward, people lined up to speak to her. A college professor shook her hand and said he wished his students had her clarity. A district administrator asked her to be part of a youth advisory board. A girl about 10, wearing a Spider-Man hoodie and glasses too big for her face, hugged Brittany and whispered, "I want to be like you." Brittany whispered back, "Be better than me." By the time she got home that night, the stars were out. Her dad unlocked the door and they stepped inside, greeted by the smell of lemon cleaner and the quiet hum of their old fridge. "Still want those chili fries?" he asked. She nodded. "Extra cheese." He grinned. They sat on the couch with 2 greasy paper trays and turned on the news. Her speech was already trending online. That weekend, Eastview Middle School posted an official statement. We are proud of Brittany Moore and the integrity she demonstrated under pressure. Her achievements remind us of the brilliance in every student and our responsibility to protect and uplift that brilliance. It didn't name Mrs. Rowling, but it didn't need to. She was gone. The district confirmed she'd taken an early retirement, effective immediately. In her place, Ms. Green stepped in as interim math coordinator, splitting her time between science and math until a full replacement could be hired. She added new materials to the curriculum. She introduced student-led math circles, where kids could teach each other, build confidence, and ask questions without fear of judgment. In one of those sessions, Brittany stood at the front of the class, dry erase marker in hand, walking her peers through a complicated equation. A boy who used to mock her raised his hand. "I don't get this part," he said. "The exponents?" Brittany turned, nodded, and rewrote the steps slowly. He watched, then nodded back. It wasn't an apology, but it was something close. Brittany didn't ask for an apology anyway. She just wanted the space to be. By spring, she had her own column in the school paper, Moore Math, where she explained concepts with diagrams and real-life applications. She even threw in jokes sometimes. Like, math is the only place where someone can buy 64 watermelons and no one asks why. Her classmates laughed. They liked her. Not because she tried to fit in, but because she didn't shrink. She never did. At the end of the school year, Eastview held its first ever Voices of the Future Forum. Students nominated speakers to share messages they believed the school needed to hear. Brittany's name was the first on the list. She wore the same blazer from the symposium, same braids, same quiet confidence. And this time, as she stood at the podium, she didn't talk about pain. She talked about growth. "I used to be quiet because I thought no one would listen. Now, I speak because I know people need to hear it." When she stepped down, her friends were waiting. They high-fived her. Some teachers clapped. Principal Vargas gave her a subtle nod from the back. And in that moment, Brittany Moore didn't feel like a girl who had survived something hard. She felt like a girl who had changed something. She had taken the ugliest thing thrown at her and turned it into a spotlight. Now, she was just getting started.